For number 7, we're going to take a look at it and see that we can't use the law of sines because we don't have an angle and a side pair that we know. We don't know any of the angles. So we are going to use law of cosines for this, but it's different than the last two that we just did. Now, when you're doing one where you don't have any of the angles, you want to find the biggest angle first. Otherwise, weird stuff can happen. So that is definitely a key. So jot that down for yourself, that find the biggest angle first. So we can see from this that 17 is the biggest side. So that means we need to find angle B first. So remember I said there's only one angle in the whole problem. It's at the very end, that cosine of the one that we're looking for. So we're going to put cosine B at that end, which means all the way at the other end goes the side opposite of it. So 17 squared. Then the 10 and 11, they're just going to fill in 10 squared plus 11 squared minus 2 times 10 times 11. Okay, this problem takes more work. It takes more algebra. So let me show you this. I'm going to go ahead and do the pieces of this. So we get 289 equals 100 plus 121 minus 2 times 10 times 11, which is 220. Okay, I want to show you something that is wrong, okay? So this is wrong. Do not write this down. This is a very common mistake. Okay, a lot of times we'll get people that will do this. 289 equals, and they add these two things. So they get 221 minus 220 cosine B. And then they'll say, oh, 221 minus 220, that's just 1. So they get 289 equals 1 cosine B. And then they'll try and do the inverse cosine of both sides. And when you do the inverse cosine of this, those cancel. And your calculator, if you try and do this inverse cosine of 289, it's going to tell you, you can't do that. Okay, and then you're going to say, Mrs. Cummins, what happened? This says there's no solution. I don't know what I did wrong. Well, what you did wrong was right here at this step. You are not allowed to subtract those things. Okay, this is 221 minus like 220x. Okay, these are not like terms. Okay, so do not do this. If you get to the end of the problem and your calculator is saying it can't do it, that's because you did something very wrong in the problem, okay? So all that to say, don't do this problem wrong. This is taking me a long time to erase. We're going to do this correctly. I'll do it back in blue. All right, so to do this problem correctly, it is okay if you add 100 and 121. So 221 minus 220 cosine B. But 221 minus 220 cosine B, those are not like terms. You cannot subtract those. So what we're going to do is subtract 221 from both sides. And that's going to give us 78 equals negative 220 cosine B. And then we're going to divide both sides by negative 220. So we get cosine of B is whatever this is. 78 divided by negative 220. Negative 0.3545 and so on. Now you're going to take the inverse cosine of both sides. And your calculator can do this, and it will do this, and it's 111 degrees. Okay, so we have now decided that this is 111 degrees. All right, now that we've done that, we can, so we found that, oh, we need to find all of these. We need angle A, angle B, and angle C. So we just found that angle B is 111 degrees. Now that we've done that, we can switch over to law of sines because we know that pair. So we can say that the sine of 111 over 17 is, doesn't matter which one we do next, A maybe, sine of A over 10. And we can cross multiply. So again, once you've done the law of cosine once, switch over to law of sines. So we get 10 sine of 111 equals 17 sine of A. We're going to divide both sides by 17. Don't forget to close those parentheses. So 10 sine of 111 divided by 17. We get 0.5492-ish. You're going to take the inverse sine of that. And we get, we'll just round it to 33. Okay, and then the last one, we'll just take 180 minus 111 minus 33, and angle C is 36 degrees. All right, let's go ahead and just knock this one out. Let's do it in the same video, no problem. So again, this is a very similar one to what we just did. We cannot use law of sines because we don't have a pair of angles and sides. We are looking for all three angles. So we have to use law of cosines, and remember, we want to find the biggest angle first. We said we were going to do that. So our biggest angle is going to be angle A. So that's what we're going to put all the way over here, cosine of A. And then the side opposite of it, the 14, goes way over here. So then the 9 and 6 just fill in. 9 squared plus 6 squared minus 2 times 9 times 6. All right, so 196 equals 81 plus 36 minus, I think that's 108. So we get 196. You're allowed to add these. I believe that's 117. Okay, hopefully we're doing all the math correctly. Okay, from this step, remember you are not allowed to subtract 117 and 108. That's not going to work for you, so you're going to subtract 117 from both sides. So we get 79 equals negative 108 cosine A. We're going to divide both sides by negative 108. So we get negative 0.73148. And you're going to do inverse cosine of that number. And that makes angle A 137 degrees. Okay, now that we know that this is 137, we now have a pair, so we can switch over and do law of sines. So we're going to do the sine of 137 over 14 equals, doesn't matter which one we use. I'm going to use sine of C over 6. We'll cross multiply, so we get 6 sine of 137 equals 14 sine of C. Divide both sides by 14, so we get the sine of C is, in our calculator, we're going to do 6 sine of 137, close the parentheses, divided by 14. We get 0.29. It goes on. I don't have enough room to write it all. You're going to do inverse sine of that, and you're going to get 17 degrees. And then the last step, we'll take 180 minus those other two angles. To get the third angle is 26 degrees.